Welcome back to Starbound Valor HFY. The cold wind howled across the frozen landing pads of KL-9 spaceport, biting through metal and flesh alike. Snow swirled in sharp gusts under the pale blue lights of the docking towers. Ships came and went with deep roars, their engines kicking up ice dust that sparkled like broken glass. Most travelers hurried inside the warm terminals, collars up, faces hidden. But one figure stayed outside, alone near a quiet cargo ramp. She was tall, almost 7 feet, with scales the color of deep midnight blue that shimmered faintly under the lights. Her wings were folded tight against her back, and thin wisps of steam rose from the small slits along her neck where her inner heat should have burned bright. Tonight, that heat was weak. Very weak. Lyra, a nurse from the Dongan medical fleet, stood with her arms wrapped around herself, teeth chattering. Her ship had left without her, an emergency recall after a border skirmish. She missed the departure by minutes. Now she was stranded on this human-controlled moon, where the temperature dropped to levels that sucked the life from her kind. Cold-blooded Dongans needed warmth to think, to move, to live. Without it, her mind grew slow, her limbs heavy, her fire dim. She had tried to find shelter, but every public heater was crowded with humans who stared at her sharp horns, her slit-pupil eyes, her clawed hands. They whispered old war stories. Dragon devils, some called her people. No one offered help. She leaned against a cold cargo crate, eyes half closed, waiting for the end to come quietly. Then she heard footsteps, slow, steady, not hurried like the others. An old human man approached. He wore a faded military coat, patched at the elbows, with gray hair cut short under a wool cap. His face was lined deep from years of sun and stress, but his eyes were calm. In his gloved hands he carried a metal thermos and a small steaming cup. He stopped a few paces away and looked at her without fear or hate. Just quiet notice. "You look cold," he said in a low, rough voice. Lyra lifted her head slowly. Her vision blurred at the edges. She expected insults or a demand to move. Instead, the man held out the cup. Steam curled up from the dark liquid inside, carrying the faint sweet smell of herbs and warmth. "It's tea," he added. "Black with a little sugar. Helps when the chill gets inside you." She stared at the cup, then at him. Humans and Dongans had fought 3 brutal wars in the last 50 years. Her brothers died in those battles. His kind had called her species monsters. Yet here he stood, offering warmth like it was nothing. Her clawed fingers trembled as she reached out. The heat from the cup soaked into her scales the moment she touched it. She brought it to her lips and took a small sip. The liquid burned her tongue in the best way, hot, alive, spreading fire down her throat and into her chest. Her inner flame flickered, then steadied. Strength returned to her arms. Her wings shifted slightly, no longer limp. For the first time in hours, she could think clearly. She looked at the man again. "Why?" she asked, voice hoarse from the cold. "You fought my people. You know what we are." He gave a small shrug and poured himself a cup from the thermos. "Cold is cold," he said simply. "Doesn't care about flags or old battles. I'm Elias. Retired sergeant. Used to fly gunships in the Tau skirmishes." He took a sip of his own tea and leaned against the same crate, not too close, giving her space. Lyra drank more, feeling life rush back into her body. The snow no longer felt like knives. "I am Lyra," she said after a pause. "Nurse. My ship left me." Elias nodded like he understood. "Happens more than you think. Schedules change fast out here." He glanced around the busy pads. "You got anywhere to go tonight?" She shook her head. The cold would come back soon without heat. Her people could not survive long in places like this. Elias finished his tea and capped the thermos. "My place is small, but the heater works good. Got blankets too. No tricks. Just a warm room till you figure next steps." Lyra's eyes narrowed. Trust did not come easy. She had patched up human soldiers only to watch them die cursing her kind. But the tea still warmed her from the inside, and the cold waited to take her again if she stayed here. She studied his face. No anger, no pity, just plain decency. "You risk trouble," she warned. "Helping an enemy." Elias gave a dry chuckle. "War's over for me. Been over a long time. Trouble finds me anyway. He turned and started walking toward the worker housing blocks at the edge of the port. After a moment, Lyra followed, wings folded, cup still clutched in her hands like a lifeline. The wind howled behind them, but the steam from the tea rose between them, small and steady. Neither spoke much on the walk. They did not need to yet. But something had begun that night, something neither of them could see coming. One cup of tea on a frozen moon. One small act. And the galaxy would never be the same. As they disappeared into the glow of the distant lights, a shadow moved near the cargo ramp. Someone had watched the whole exchange. Eyes narrowed. A comm device clicked on. Target located, a low voice whispered. And she's not alone. The hunt had started. The door to Elias's small apartment hissed shut behind them, sealing out the biting wind of KL-9. Inside, the air was warm, almost too warm for most humans, but perfect for Lyra. A single heater hummed in the corner, glowing orange. The room was plain, one narrow bed, a tiny kitchen counter, a table with 2 chairs, and shelves lined with old military books and a few faded photos. No decorations. No mess. Just the quiet order of a man who had seen enough chaos. Elias flicked on a low lamp and pointed to the chair nearest the heater. Sit. Get the chill out. Lyra moved slowly, still holding the empty cup like it was precious. She lowered herself into the chair, wings folding tight so they did not knock anything over. The heat wrapped around her scales like a blanket. Her body drank it in. Color returned to the thin membranes of her wings, faint purple veins glowing softly. She breathed deep, the first real breath in hours. Elias busied himself at the counter. He filled a kettle, set it on the small stove, and pulled out a tin of loose tea leaves. "More?" he asked without turning. Lyra nodded. "Yes, please." He worked in silence for a minute, then carried 2 fresh steaming cups to the table. He sat across from her, not too close. She took the new cup, wrapped both clawed hands around it, and inhaled the steam. The warmth spread faster this time. Her mind cleared completely. She looked at him, really looked. Gray eyes, steady. Scars on his knuckles. A faint limp when he walked. A soldier, no doubt. One who had killed her kind. "You fought in the Tau skirmishes," she said quietly. "I was there too. Not fighting. Healing. I saw human gunships tear our evacuation ships apart." Elias met her gaze. No flinch. "I flew one of those gunships. Not proud of every order I followed." He took a slow sip of tea. "Lost friends. Lost sleep. Lost pieces of myself. War does that." Lyra's tail tip twitched. "Then why help me? I am Dongan. Your enemy." He set his cup down. Was. Past tense. The treaties ended it 10 years ago. Doesn't mean the hate died easy, but I'm done carrying it. He leaned back. "Besides, you were freezing. I know what cold feels like when it gets inside. Saw it in the trenches on Vara Prime. Men froze standing up. Couldn't let it happen again, not if I could stop it." She studied him. No lie in his voice. No hidden edge. Just truth, plain as the tea in her hands. She drank more, letting the heat settle her nerves. "My people call humans fire thieves. You burn bright and fast, then leave ashes. We burn slow. Steady. Or we did, before your wars forced us into the cold." Elias gave a small, tired smile. "Fire thieves. I like that. Better than dragon devils." She almost smiled back. "Almost. We are not devils. We are nurses, builders, mothers. But war makes everything simple. Enemy. Ally. Dead." Silence stretched between them. The heater clicked softly. Outside, distant ship engines rumbled. Elias broke the quiet first. "Tell me about your work. What does a Dongan nurse do that's different?" Lyra hesitated, then spoke. "We use inner fire to close wounds. Speed healing. Calm pain. It costs us, takes our own heat, but it saves lives. I treated humans too, when the fighting stopped for a moment. Your medics were surprised. They thought we only killed." Elias nodded slowly. I saw that once. A Donganfield medic pulled shrapnel from my squad mate's chest with his bare hands. Heat sealed the arteries. Kid lived. I never forgot. Lyra's eyes widened a fraction. You were there? Yeah. Grid 7, third day. Thought we were all dead. He looked at his cup. Guess we weren't. Another pause. The tea cooled a little. Lyra spoke softer now. I left someone behind today. My cousin. She was on the ship that departed. She will think I am dead. Elias frowned. Can you contact her? Not safely. Comms are watched. Border is tense again. Rumors of new trouble. She set her cup down. I have to get home. But I have no credits. No transport. And hunters may already know I missed the ship. Elias rubbed his jaw. Hunters. Private ones. Some work for old warlords who don't like peace. Others want what I carry. She touched a small, flat device hidden under her tunic, a data chip. Medical logs. Proof of things both sides did. Things leaders buried. Elias leaned forward. Dangerous. Very. She met his eyes. If they find me, they will take it. Or kill me to keep it hidden. He exhaled through his nose. Then you're not safe here long. He stood up, walked to a drawer, and pulled out an old military coat, bigger than his own. Put this on. Covers the wings a bit. Makes you look less noticeable. Lyra took the coat. It smelled of oil and old leather. She slipped it over her shoulders. It hung loose, but it hid her shape. Why do this? She asked again. Elias shrugged. Because someone has to. And tonight, that someone is me. He glanced at the single window. Snow still fell hard. Rest if you can. I'll keep watch. Lyra settled deeper into the chair. Warmth filled her completely now. Trust did not come all at once, but a crack had opened. One sip at a time. She closed her eyes for a moment, listening to the heater and his quiet breathing. For the first time since the ship left, she did not feel alone. But outside, in the shadows of the spaceport, two figures moved. Dark coats. Hooded. One spoke into a wrist comm. She's in the worker blocks. Apartment 47C. Old human with her. The other nodded. Good. We wait till they sleep. Then we take her. The wind swallowed their words. Inside, Elias sat by the door, old service pistol on his lap, eyes on the shadows. He did not sleep. Neither did the hunt. Something had begun with that first cup of tea. And it would not end quietly. The night dragged on in Elias's tiny apartment, the heater's low hum the only steady sound. Lyra sat wrapped in the borrowed coat, wings tucked tight, eyes half closed as warmth finally chased the last of the cold from her bones. She had not slept, could not yet, but the fear that had gripped her at the spaceport had dulled to a quiet ache. Elias stayed by the door, chair tilted back, old pistol resting across his lap. He did not stare at her. He watched the window, the hallway light slipping under the door, listening for anything out of place. Hours passed like that. No words. Just shared silence and the faint smell of cooling tea. Then it came, a soft scrape outside. Not wind. Not snow. Boots on metal grating. Elias's hand tightened on the pistol grip. He raised one finger to his lips. Lyra's slit pupils widened. She heard it too. Two sets of steps, slow, careful. They stopped right outside the door. A low voice murmured, too muffled to catch words, but the tone was sharp, impatient. Lyra's tail curled around the chair leg. Her inner fire flared instinctively, ready to burn if needed. Elias stood silently, moved to the side of the door, back flat against the wall. He motioned for her to stay low. A shadow passed under the door crack. Someone tried the handle, slow turn, testing. Locked. A soft click of tools followed. They were picking it. Elias glanced at Lyra. She nodded once. She understood. No talking. No panic. The lock gave with a faint snap. The door eased open an inch. A gloved hand slipped through, holding a small scanner. It swept the room. Elias waited. The hand pushed further. Then the door swung wider. Two figures stepped in, tall, hooded, faces hidden under dark visors. One carried a stun baton. The other had a short-barreled pistol with a suppressor. Bounty hunters. Not soldiers. Mercenaries. The kind who worked for credits, not causes. The first hunter scanned left. Elias moved like a ghost. He grabbed the wrist with the pistol, twisted hard, slammed the man's face into the doorframe. Bone cracked. The pistol clattered to the floor. The second hunter spun, baton raised, but Lyra was already up. She lunged low, wings flaring for balance, and drove her clawed hand into the hunter's knee. Heat surged from her palm, controlled, precise. The joint popped with a wet hiss as tendons burned. The man screamed, dropped. Elias finished the first with a sharp elbow to the temple. Both hunters slumped, unconscious. Elias kicked the door shut, locked it again. He dragged the bodies to the corner, bound their wrists with old cargo straps from under the bed. Lyra stood breathing hard, scales flushed with heat. "They found me fast," she said. "Too fast." Elias checked their pockets. Comm devices. A data pad. A bounty chit with her face on it. Recent photo from the spaceport cameras. Reward. High. "Someone wants you bad," he muttered. He tapped the data pad. It lit up. Encrypted, but he knew enough old codes from his service days. He cracked the lock screen. Messages scrolled. Orders. Capture alive if possible. Data chip priority. Eliminate the human if he interferes. Elias looked at Lyra. "They know I'm here." She touched the hidden chip under her tunic. "This is why." The logs. Names. Dates. Proof that the last border incident was staged. Not by accident. By orders from both sides. To keep the hate alive. To sell weapons. To keep power. Elias exhaled slow. Politicians playing games with lives. Same as always. He pocketed the hunter's comms. "We can't stay. They'll send more." Lyra nodded. "I need to reach my fleet. Or a neutral station. Somewhere the data can be broadcast safe." Elias rubbed his scarred knuckles. "I know people. Old crew. Smugglers mostly now. One owes me a favor. He runs cargo out of the lower docks. Might get us off this moon quiet." She studied him. "You do not have to come. This is my fight." He gave a dry laugh. "Was my fight too once. Still is, if it means stopping another war." He pulled a duffel from under the bed, old gear, spare clothes, a few ration packs, a compact medkit, extra ammo. "We move now, before their backup arrives." Lyra helped him strip the hunters of useful items. 2 stun batons, a spare pistol, credit chits. She hesitated over the data pad, then smashed it under her heel. No trail. They slipped out the back window, narrow service ledge, 3 stories up. Snow bit at them again, but Lyra's heat kept her steady. Elias led the way, moving like he had done this 100 times. They dropped to an alley, stayed in shadows. Distant sirens wailed. Someone had found the empty apartment already. They reached the lower docks in 20 minutes. Cargo loaders rumbled. Crates stacked high. Elias knocked a pattern on a rusted side door of a battered freighter. It opened a crack. A scarred face peered out, human, middle-aged, one eye cybernetic. "Elias. Thought you were dead." "Almost was," Elias said. "Need a ride." "Quiet. No questions." The man glanced at Lyra, eyes narrowing at her scales. "Dongan. Hot cargo." "She's with me," Elias said flat. "Favor called in." The captain sighed. "Fine. But if trouble follows, you handle it." He stepped aside. "Name's Rook. Ship's the Grey Fox. We lift in 30. Get inside." They boarded. The hold smelled of oil and old metal. Crates everywhere. A small passenger nook with bunks. Elias dropped the duffel. Lyra sat on the edge of a bunk, wings drooping a little from the strain. Rook sealed the hatch. Engines began to warm. "Destination?" he asked. "Neutral rim." "Closest safe port," Elias said. "And fast." Rook nodded and vanished toward the cockpit. Lyra looked at Elias. "You risk everything for a stranger." He sat across from her. "Not a stranger anymore." He pulled out the thermos, still half full, poured 2 small cups. Steam rose between them again. "Besides," he added with a faint smile, "you owe me for the tea." She took the cup. Warmth spread through her once more. The ship trembled as it lifted off, breaking Atmo, leaving Kale 9 behind. Stars appeared in the small viewport. But in the shadows of the spaceport, another figure watched the gray fox climb. A third hunter. Alone this time. He activated his comm. "They're moving. Freighter, gray fox. Track them. Do not lose." The stars stretched long as the ship jumped to hyperspace. Safe for now. But the hunt was far from over. One act of kindness had sparked something bigger. And the galaxy was starting to notice. The gray fox slipped through hyperspace like a shadow, engines humming low to stay off most scans. Inside the cramped passenger nook, Elias and Lyra sat across from each other on the narrow bunks. The ship's lights were dim, red for night cycle. Rook had left them alone after takeoff, grumbling about extra risk but keeping his word. No questions. No trouble. Yeah. Lyra pulled the data chip from under her tunic and placed it on the small table between them. It was flat, black, no bigger than a human coin, with a faint blue glow along the edge when it caught light. "This holds everything," she said quietly. "Logs from both sides. Orders to fire on civilian transports. False flags. Names of officers who knew and stayed silent. If this reaches the right people, neutral news nets, or the Galactic Council, it can force real peace. No more lies." Elias leaned forward, elbows on knees. "And if it falls into the wrong hands, they twist it, use it to start another war, or bury it forever." Her tail flicked once. "That is why the hunters want me. Alive if they can. Dead if they must." He nodded slow. "Then we need a plan. Not just running. A way to get this out clean." Lyra's eyes met his. "I was heading to Epsilon Station before the ship left without me. Neutral ground. Council observers there. A broadcast array that reaches every major system. If I can reach it, I can send the data wide. No hiding." Elias rubbed his jaw. "Epsilon's 3 jumps from here. Heavy traffic. Easy to hide in, but also easy to get spotted. We need to change ships at least once. Maybe twice. And we need fake IDs, credits, cover stories." She tilted her head. "You speak like you have done this before. Smuggled people out of hot zones during the last ceasefire. Not proud, but necessary." He stood, paced the small space. "Rook can drop us at Midway Depot, fringe station, lots of black market traffic. From there, we buy passage on something bigger, less obvious. Cargo hauler maybe. Or passenger liner if we can blend." Lyra watched him move. "You teach me human ways. I teach you mine." He stopped. "Like what?" She held up one clawed hand. Palm open. A soft orange glow bloomed under her scales, not hot enough to burn, just warm. "This. I can seal small cuts. Ease pain. Warm cold metal so it does not freeze your fingers. Useful in tight spots." Elias gave a small grin. "Handy. And you?" "Old soldier tricks," he said. "How to spot a tail. How to lose one. How to make a weapon from junk. How to talk your way past guards. Simple things. But they work." They spent the next hours planning. Elias sketched rough maps on a scrap of paper from his duffel, station layouts he remembered, choke points, backways. Lyra added details from Dongan intel, scanner blind spots, species checkpoints. They practiced quick disguises. Elias draped a spare blanket over her wings to make them look like a bulky pack. She practiced walking with her tail tucked, head down, eyes averted, human body language to seem small, non-threatening. He taught her basic phrases in common slang. She taught him a Dongan gesture for peace, palm to chest, then open hand out. Simple. Honest. Rook's voice crackled over the intercom. "Dropping out in 10. Midway Depot ahead. Get ready." Place is a hive. Watch your backs. The ship shuddered as it left hyperspace. Through the small viewport, Midway Depot appeared, a massive ring station orbiting a gas giant, lights pulsing like a living thing. Ships docked everywhere. Shuttles darted. No central authority. Just rules of credits and silence. They disembarked fast. Rook met them at the ramp. You're clear. Debt paid. Don't die. He clapped Elias on the shoulder once, then vanished back inside. The depot air smelled of fuel, fried food, and too many bodies. Aliens of every kind moved through the crowded corridors, tentacled traders, scaled laborers, human spacers with cyber limbs. Elias kept Lyra close, coat hood up over her horns. They moved quick but not rushed. Blend, don't run. First stop, a back alley ID forger. Elias knew the spot from old runs. A small door behind a noodle stand. Inside, a wiry human woman with glowing tattoos worked at a holodesk. She glanced up. Elias. Long time. Who's the tall friend? Needs papers, he said. Clean. Fast. The woman eyed Lyra. Dongan. Tricky. Extra credits. They paid with the hunter's chits. 10 minutes later, new IDs. Elias as Marcus Hale, freelance mechanic. Lyra as Sarah Vaughn, medical contractor. Fake but solid. Enough to pass casual scans. Next, passage. They hit the docking board. A mid-size hauler, the Iron Sparrow, bound for Epsilon. Captain taking extra passengers for cash. No questions. Perfect. They bought tickets. Boarded last. The Sparrow's hold was half cargo, half bunks. They took a corner spot, backs to the wall. Engines warmed. The ship undocked. Lyra leaned close to Elias. We are close now. He nodded. Stay sharp. Hunters won't quit easy. Hours into the jump, alarms blared. Not the ships. External. A fast interceptor dropped out of hyperspace behind them. Black hull, no markings. Hunter ship. Small. Armed. The Sparrow's captain patched through. We got company. They're hailing. Demanding we heave to. Elias stood. Tell them no. Captain laughed dry. Already did. Hang on. The chase began. The Sparrow pushed engines hard, weaving through asteroid drifts at the edge of the system. The interceptor fired warning shots, lasers flashing past the hull. Elias and Lyra braced in their nook. She gripped his arm. They will board if they catch us. He pulled the spare pistol from his duffel. Then we fight. The Sparrow twisted sharp, grazed an asteroid. Sparks flew. The interceptor closed. Grapple lines shot out, magnetic clamps locking to the hull. Boarding in progress. Elias moved to the corridor. Lyra followed. Crew scrambled, some armed, some hiding. The airlock hissed. 3 hunters in combat gear stepped through. Helmets down. Weapons up. First shot cracked. Elias returned fire, dropped one. Lyra lunged, wings flaring wide for the first time since KL-9. She slammed into the second, heat surging from her hands to melt the rifle barrel. The hunter screamed, dropped. The third aimed at her back. Elias tackled him. They rolled. Fists flew. The hunter's knife flashed. Elias took a shallow cut across the arm, grunted, slammed the man's head against deck plating. Out cold. Silence fell. Crew stared. Captain appeared. You too, damn. That was clean. Lyra sealed Elias's cut with a touch, warm glow, skin knitting fast. He flexed his arm. Good as new. Captain shook his head. You're trouble. But useful trouble. We'll make Epsilon. But after this, you owe me double. They nodded. The ship jumped again. Safe, for now. In the quiet after, Lyra looked at Elias. Blood on his sleeve. Eyes tired but steady. You bleed for me. He shrugged. You'd do the same. She placed a clawed hand on his shoulder. Warm. Not burning. I would. The stars streaked past. Epsilon waited. The data chip burned in her pocket like a promise. One small act of tea had led them here, Two enemies turned allies, running toward peace. But the hunters were still out there, closer than ever. And the galaxy watched, waiting for what came next. The Iron Sparrow burst out of hyperspace with a groan of stressed engines, alarms still echoing from the boarding fight. Stars snapped back into sharp points. Ahead lay the narrow asteroid belt marking the edge of the neutral rim, jagged rocks tumbling slow in the black, a natural shield if you knew how to use it. Behind them, the black interceptor clung like a predator, engines flaring hot, closing fast. Its lasers had already scorched the Sparrow's rear plating. The captain's voice cracked over the ship-wide comm, "They're matching our speed. Grapples again in 30 seconds. Brace." Elias stood in the corridor, pistol in hand, blood drying on his sleeve from the earlier cut. Lyra was beside him, wings half spread, inner fire glowing faint orange along her scales. The crew, rough spacers, not soldiers, gripped makeshift weapons, wrenches, pipe lengths, one old rifle. Fear showed in their eyes, but no one ran. Not yet. The ship lurched as the interceptor fired another volley. Sparks rained from a bulkhead. Gravity flickered once. Elias grabbed a handhold. "We can't outrun them straight. Captain, take us into the belt. Tight turns. Use the rocks." Captain's reply came quick. "You're crazy, old man. One wrong move and we're dust." "Better dust than boarded again," Elias said. "Do it." The Sparrow banked hard. Engines screamed. The ship dove into the asteroid field like a needle threading chaos. Rocks the size of houses spun past inches from the hull. The interceptor followed, slower, bulkier. Its pilot hesitated, then committed. Lasers flashed, clipping a small asteroid. Chunks exploded outward, pelting both ships. Lyra moved to a side panel, claws prying it open. "I can help," she said. "The damage from earlier, power relays fried. I can reroute heat to boost shields." Elias glanced at her. "You sure? That'll drain you." "I am sure." She pressed palms to the exposed wires. Orange glow spread. Heat flowed, not burning, but steady. Consoles flickered back to life. Shields strengthened a fraction. The captain whooped over comm, "Whatever you're doing back there, keep it up." The chase turned brutal. The Sparrow twisted through gaps no sane pilot would try. An asteroid grazed the hull. Metal shrieked. Air hissed from a small breach. Lyra sealed it fast, hands glowing brighter, but sweat beaded on her scaled brow. Her fire dimmed a little each time. The interceptor gained. Grapple lines shot again, two clamped to the Sparrow's flank. Winches pulled. The ships drew closer. Boarding tubes extended. Elias ran to the nearest airlock. "They're coming through here. Hold them at the choke point." Crew gathered. Lyra followed, tail lashing. The outer door blew open with a pop. 3 hunters in armored suits stepped through, helmets sealed, rifles raised. First one fired. A crewman dropped, clutching his leg. Elias returned fire, 2 shots, one hit center mass. The hunter staggered but kept coming. Lyra roared, a deep, rumbling sound that echoed in the tight space. She charged. Wings flared wide, blocking the corridor. Heat rolled off her in waves. The lead hunter's rifle barrel glowed red, warped. He dropped it, cursing. She slammed him against the wall, claws pinning shoulders, not killing. "Yield!" she shouted in common. He didn't. Second hunter aimed at her back. Elias tackled him low, drove him to the deck. They wrestled. The hunter's visor cracked under Elias's fist. Lyra turned, saw the third raise his weapon at Elias. She lunged, heat surging from her hand to the hunter's arm. Armor smoked. He screamed, weapon falling. The fight ended fast after that. The last hunter surrendered, hands up. Crew bound them. The grapple lines went slack. The interceptor's pilot, seeing the boarding fail, pulled back. Engines flared. It vanished into hyperspace jump. Silence fell on the Sparrow. Smoke drifted. Wounded groaned. Lyra knelt by the crewman, shot in the leg. Her hands glowed soft. Heat knit flesh, stopped bleeding. The man stared up at her, eyes wide. You're a dragon." Thought you lot only killed. I heal, she said simply. When I can. Elias helped her stand. She swayed, fire dim now, scales paler. You pushed too hard, he said. Had to. She leaned on him a moment. We live because of it. Captain appeared, face grim. We're limping. Engines at half. Shields down. Nearest safe landing is Harrow's Drift, small moon, abandoned mining outpost. Got breathable air, old shelters. We set down there, patch up. Then figure next move. No one argued. The Sparrow descended slow through thin clouds. Harrow's Drift was gray rock and dust, craters like old scars. They touched down near a cluster of rusted domes. Crew unloaded gear, medkits, tools, spare parts. Elias and Lyra stepped out last. Cold wind hit them, but not as bad as KL-9. Lyra's fire recovered slowly in the thin air. They found shelter in an old admin building. Heater still worked, barely. Elias built a small fire from scrap wood. Lyra sat close, soaking heat. Crew patched the ship outside, voices low. Elias sat beside her. You okay? She nodded slow. Tired, but alive. She looked at him. You took the knife for me back there. Again. Habit, he said with a faint smile. Old ones die hard. She reached out, placed a warm hand on his wounded arm. Glow spread. The cut from earlier vanished completely. No more bleeding for me, she said soft. We bleed together now. Or not at all. He met her eyes. Something shifted, quiet, unspoken. Not romance. Deeper. Trust forged in fire and blood. Outside, wind howled over the domes. Stars wheeled cold overhead. The data chip still safe in her tunic. Epsilon waited, one more jump. But the hunters would regroup. They always did. In the quiet dome, Elias poured the last of his thermos tea, weak now, but warm. He handed her a cup. She took it. Steam rose between them again, small and steady. One sip. One breath. They had survived the stars chase. But the real fight, the one for peace, was just beginning. And somewhere in the black, another hunter ship plotted course. Tracking. Waiting. The galaxy turned, indifferent. But two unlikely allies sat by a fire on a forgotten moon, cups in hand, refusing to break. The Iron Sparrow sat silent on the dusty landing pad of Harrow's Drift, engines cooling with soft ticks in the thin air. Inside the old admin dome, the small fire crackled low. Elias and Lyra sat close to it, backs against a rusted console. The crew worked outside, patching hull breaches, recharging shields, arguing in low voices about how much longer they could delay. The hunters would come again. Everyone knew it. Lyra pulled the data chip from her tunic once more. She held it between two claws, turning it slowly so the blue glow caught the firelight. We are close to Epsilon, she said. One more jump. But I must show you what is inside. You risk your life. You deserve to know why. Elias nodded. He had not asked before. Now he did. Show me. She placed the chip on a small portable holoreader one of the crew had loaned them. The device hummed, projected a faint blue field above the table. Files opened, logs, audio clips, scanned documents. Dates from the last border war. Names. Orders. First file, a command from a human admiral. Stage incident at Grid 14. Provoke response. Civilian transport must be hit. Make it look like Dongan aggression. Timestamp matched the day Elias lost half his squadron. He stared. Jaw tight. Next, Dongan High Command reply. Approve counterstrike. Use human false flag as justification. Maximize casualties for public support. Lyra's voice shook a little. My cousin flew one of those evacuation ships. She died believing we were defending our own. Elias exhaled slow. They played both sides. Kept the war going for profit. Weapons contracts. Territory grabs. Power. Lyra shut the holo off. The glow faded. This proof can end it. Broadcast wide. No more lies. No more easy hate. But if we fail, If they take this chip, they will burn the truth and start worse. He looked at her. Then we don't fail. Outside, the wind picked up. Dust rattled against the dome walls. Elias stood. We need to move soon. Ship's almost ready. But first, rest. You burned too much heat back there. Lyra shook her head. I cannot rest yet. She touched the chip again. There is more. A recording. Last one. She played it. A shaky audio file. A human voice. Old. Tired. This is Admiral Voss. I'm sending this because I can't stay silent anymore. The orders came from the top. Both tops. They want endless war. I'm defecting. Coordinates attached. Meet me at Epsilon. Bring proof. We expose them together. The file ended. Static. Elias rubbed his face. Voss. I knew him. Good man once. If he's alive. If he's really turning. Lyra met his eyes. He is the key. A high-ranking human admitting guilt. With my logs, it becomes undeniable. Peace becomes possible. They sat in silence after that. The fire popped. Elias poured the last drops of tea from his thermos, barely enough for half a cup each. They shared it without words. Warmth passed between them like a promise. Hours later, the captain banged on the dome door. We're lifting in 20. Get aboard or stay here forever. They boarded fast. The Sparrow rumbled to life. Engines roared. Dust swirled as it broke Otmo. Stars appeared again. The jump to Epsilon was short, only 12 hours. But every minute felt heavy. In the passenger nook, Elias cleaned his pistol. Lyra sat across, wings folded, staring at the viewport. What if they are waiting? She asked. Then we fight smarter, he said. No more running blind. We land quiet. Find Voss. Broadcast from the station array. Done. She nodded. Together. The hours ticked by. They talked little. Shared small things instead. Elias told her about his homeworld, green fields, real rain, not recycled air. Lyra described Dongan nests, warm caves lit by inner fire, families huddled close. They laughed once, quiet, when he tried the Dongan peace gesture wrong and she corrected him gently. Then the ship dropped out of hyperspace. Epsilon station loomed ahead, a giant wheel of lights and docking arms, neutral territory, council flags everywhere. Ships from 100 species moved in orderly lines. The captain patched through. We're cleared for landing. Bay 17. But heads up, security's thick. Scans everywhere. And there's chatter. Someone's asking about a Dongan nurse and an old human spacer. Elias stood. Hunters. Lyra touched the chip. We go straight to the broadcast array. No detours. They disembarked into the crowded concourse. Aliens everywhere. Traders, diplomats, tourists. Elias kept Lyra's hood up, stayed close. They moved fast through the flow. Halfway to the central hub, trouble found them. A group of 4, 3 humans, 1 scaled mercenary, stepped from a side corridor. Leader held a data slate with their faces on it. Stop right there, he said. Voice calm. Professional. Hand over the chip. No need for blood. Elias drew his pistol slow. Not happening. Lyra's wings shifted under the coat. Heat built. The fight exploded. The mercenary charged first. Lyra met him, claws out, heat flaring. She grabbed his arm, burned through armor. He roared, swung a vibroblade. She dodged, tail whipping to knock his legs. He fell hard. Elias fired twice, dropped 1 human. The second dove for cover, returned fire. Laser scorched Elias's shoulder. Pain flared hot. He grunted, rolled behind a crate. Lyra finished the mercenary with a controlled burn to the neck, enough to stun, not kill. She spun toward the last 2. One aimed at Elias. She lunged, took the shot meant for him. Energy bolt hit her side. Scales cracked. She staggered but did not fall. Elias surged up. Tackled the shooter. Fists flew. Bone cracked. The man went limp. The leader backed away, hands up. Enough. We're done. Security alarms wailed. Station guards rushed in, armored. Lyra slumped against a wall. Blood, dark, thick, seeped from her side. Elias dropped beside her. Hold on. Her hand glowed weak. Tried to heal herself. Fire too low now. The chip, she whispered. Get it to Voss. He took it from her tunic. Pressed it into his pocket. Guards surrounded them. Rifles up. Elias stood slow, hands raised. We need medical. And the council. We have proof. Big proof. The lead guard hesitated. Looked at Lyra, wounded Dongan, and Elias, bleeding human, standing together. Something in his eyes shifted. Take them to Med Bay, he ordered. And call the observers. Now. They lifted Lyra onto a stretcher. Elias walked beside, hand on hers. Her eyes fluttered. We're not done, he said firm. Not yet. The station spun around them. Lights blurred. The chip burned in his pocket like fire. Voss waited somewhere in the hub. The truth waited. One small act on a frozen moon had brought them here, wounded, hunted, but still fighting. For peace. For each other. And the galaxy, for the first time in decades, listened. The med bay on Epsilon Station smelled sharp, antiseptic mixed with a faint metallic tang of recycled air. White lights hummed overhead. Machines beeped steady. Lyra lay on the narrow bed, scales dull, the wound in her side wrapped in glowing Regan bandages. The energy bolt had cracked 2 ribs and burned deep. Station doctors, human and alien both, had worked fast, but her cold-blooded biology made healing slow without her own fire. And her fire was almost gone. Elias sat beside her, chair pulled close, one hand resting near hers but not touching. He had refused to leave. Security guards stood at the door now, not to arrest, but to protect. Word had spread. A wounded Dongan nurse and a retired human veteran, fighting together. People whispered. The council observers were coming. Lyra's eyes opened slow. Slit pupils focused on him. The chip, she whispered. Safe, Elias said. He patted his pocket. They scanned it. Verified. Voss is on his way. He's alive. Hiding in the diplomatic wing. He wants to meet you, before the broadcast. She tried to sit up. Pain flashed across her face. She fell back. I must be there. You will, he said firm. But first you rest. Doctors say another hour, maybe 2. Then we move. She looked at the ceiling. I feel cold again. Like Kale, 9. The fire, it fades. Elias reached into his duffel. Pulled out the old thermos, empty now, but he had refilled it from the station galley. Hot tea. Black. Sugar. He poured a small cup, held it close so steam rose toward her face. Drink. Slow. She took it with trembling claws. Sipped. Heat spread down her throat. A faint glow returned to her neck slits. Not strong. But there. You always have tea, she said, almost a laugh. Habit, he replied. Keeps me sane. Kept you alive once. She drank more. Strength crept back. Tell me about after the war. When you retired. He leaned back. Quiet house on a small colony. Fields. Rain. No alarms. No orders. I thought that was peace. But nights were hard. Dreams of Tau. Of faces I couldn't save. He paused. Then I came to Kale, 9. Cargo runs. Odd jobs. Alone. Until that night. Until you. Lyra's hand found his. Warm now. I thought humans were only fire and death. You showed me different. He squeezed once. Gentle. And you showed me we're not so different. Cold hurts everyone. The door hissed open. A council observer entered, tall, 4-armed alien in gray robes. The broadcast array is ready. Admiral Voss is here. He insists on speaking with you both first. Elias stood. She's coming. The observer looked at Lyra. She is wounded. She's tougher than she looks, Elias said. Lyra pushed herself up. Pain sharp, but she stood. Wings folded tight. I walk. They moved through the station corridors. Guards flanked them. Crowds parted. Whispers followed. That's them. The ones from the fight. Dongan and human. Together. They reached a secure conference room. Admiral Voss waited inside. Older than Elias remembered. Hair white. Face lined deeper. But eyes still sharp. He stood when they entered. Looked at Lyra first. Nurse. I have your logs. They match mine. Thank you. Lyra nodded weak. Expose them. Please. Voss turned to Elias. Sergeant. Didn't think I'd see you again. Didn't think I'd see you defecting, Elias said dry. Voss gave a tired smile. Guilt catches up. He gestured to a holoscreen. We go live in 10 minutes. Full broadcast. Every major net. No filters. They sat. Lyra leaned on Elias. He kept the teacup near her. She sipped when she could. The broadcast began. Voss spoke first. Voice steady. I am Admiral Harlan Voss, former command of the Human Border Fleet. Today I admit, the wars were prolonged by design. False flags. Staged attacks. Orders from councils on both sides. Proof is here. Files scrolled on screen. Logs. Audio. Names. Lyra spoke next. Voice hoarse but clear. I am Lyra of the Dongan Medical Fleet. I carried these truths because healing cannot happen in lies. Our peoples bled for nothing. No more. Elias added last. Simple. I gave her T1 cold night. That's all. But it showed me she was not the enemy. We are not enemies. Stop the hate. Start again. The feed cut wide. Billions watched. Silence in the room after. Voss exhaled. It's done. But not quite. Alarms blared. Red lights flashed. Intruder alert. Armed group in central hub. Guards rushed out. Elias helped Lyra stand. We need to move. They hurried through side passages. Voss led. Safe room. Council bunker. But the hunters were fast. They burst from a side door, 6 now, armored, rifles hot. Leader shouted, the chip. Now. Fight again. Elias pushed Lyra behind cover. Fired. Dropped one. Voss pulled a hidden pistol, old service model. Shot twice. Precise. Lyra's fire was low, but she used what she had. She stepped out, wings wide. Heat rolled like a wave. Rifles warped. Armor smoked. Hunters screamed, backed off. One last shot, aimed at Voss. Elias dove. Took it in the chest. Pain exploded. He fell hard. Lyra roared. Charged the shooter. Claws out. Heat surged, enough to stun, not kill. The man dropped. Silence fell again. Voss knelt by Elias. Hold on, Sergeant. Lyra dropped beside him. Hands glowing weak. Pressed to the wound. Heat flowed. Slow. Desperate. Stay with me, she whispered. You promised. No more bleeding alone. Elias coughed. Blood on his lips. But he smiled faint. Tea's gone cold. She poured the last drops from the cup onto a cloth. Pressed it to his forehead. Then we make more. Later. Guards arrived. Med teams. They lifted Elias. Lyra walked beside, hand on his. Voss followed. In the med bay again, machines worked. Doctors stabilized him. Lyra sat close. Her own wound still hurt, but she ignored it. Hours passed. Elias woke slow. Eyes found hers first. We did it. She nodded. Broadcast reached everywhere. Riots on border worlds, peaceful ones. Protests. Leaders stepping down. It's starting. He squeezed her hand. Good. She leaned close. You almost left me. Couldn't, he said. Not after one cup of tea. Outside the station, ships gathered. Not for war. For talks. First real ones in decades. Lyra stayed by his bed. Made weak tea from station supplies. Poured for him every few hours. The galaxy changed slow. But it changed. Because one retired veteran refused to let a freezing nurse die alone. And she refused to let him go. The hunt was over. Peace had begun. But the road ahead was long. And they would walk it together. The med bay lights dimmed for night cycle, but Elias could not sleep. Pain throbbed in his chest where the energy bolt had hit, clean through, missed the heart by inches. Doctors said he was stable. Lucky. Lyra sat beside him on a stool she had pulled close, one clawed hand resting light on the bed rail. Her own side wound had closed enough to stop bleeding, but she moved careful. The broadcast still played on loop in the station corridors, muted voices repeating Voss's confession, Lyra's words, Elias's simple line about tea. Crowds gathered outside the med bay doors. Not angry. Curious. Hopeful. Signs appeared, peace starts here. One cup changed everything. A soft knock came. The door slid open. Admiral Voss entered, still in his plain gray tunic, no rank insignia now. 2 council guards followed but stayed outside. Voss looked older in the low light, shoulders bent under invisible weight. He stopped at the foot of the bed. You're awake. Good. Elias pushed himself up a little. Winced. Had to be. What's happening out there? Voss exhaled slow. Chaos. Good chaos. Human border fleets stand down. Dongan ships pulled back from contested zones. Emergency sessions called on both capitals. Leaders are furious, some denying, some resigning. The data hit like a bomb. No putting it back in the box. Lyra spoke quiet. And the people? Talking. Marching. Not fighting. For the first time in my life, they're demanding truth instead of blood. Voss looked at her. Your face is everywhere, nurse. Yours too, Sergeant. They call you the T-pair. The ones who started it. Elias gave a dry chuckle that turned into a cough. T-pair. Sounds stupid. Sounds hopeful, Lyra said. Her tail tip moved slow. But hope is fragile. Voss nodded. Which is why I'm here. The council wants you both to speak. Tomorrow. In the Grand Chamber. Representatives from every major species. Human and Dongan delegates already en route. They want to hear from you, live. Before the first treaty draft. Elias frowned. I'm no speaker. You don't have to be, Voss said. Just be honest. Like on the broadcast. Lyra looked at Elias. We go together. Always, he said. Voss left them with a nod. Rest. Med teams will clear you by morning. The night passed slow. Lyra made fresh tea from station supplies, weak but hot. She poured for Elias every hour. He drank what he could. They talked little. Mostly sat in quiet. Her hand near his. His breathing steady beside her. Morning came fast. Doctors cleared them both, Elias with a support brace under his shirt, Lyra with fresh bandages. Guards escorted them through back corridors to avoid crowds. The Grand Chamber waited, a huge dome at the station core. Transparent ceiling showed stars. Seats rose in circles. Already filling with delegates, humans in suits, Dongans with scaled robes, other aliens in every color and shape. Holocams hovered. Broadcast live to the galaxy. They entered from a side door. Silence fell like a wave. Thousands of eyes turned. Elias walked straight, no limp if he could help it. Lyra beside him, wings folded, head high. No coat now. No hiding. They took the center platform. A simple podium. No script. Just a mic. Voss stood nearby, ready if needed. Elias spoke first. Voice rough but clear. I'm Elias. Retired sergeant. Flew gunships. Killed Dongans. Lost friends to them. Thought that was the end of the story. He paused. Looked at Lyra. Then one night on KL9, I saw a nurse freezing. Gave her tea. That's it. 1 cup. She didn't ask for it. I didn't expect anything. But she drank. We talked. And I learned she wasn't a monster. Just cold. Just tired. Just like me after too many wars. He stepped back a little. Let Lyra take the front. She spoke slow. I am Lyra, nurse of the Dongan fleet. I healed humans when the fighting stopped. I saw their pain. Same as ours. I carried proof because lies kill more than weapons. One human gave me warmth when my own people left me behind. He risked his life. Again and again. Because cold is cold. No flags. No sides. We are all alive in the same dark. She looked out at the chamber. We ask nothing grand. Just stop. Stop the orders. Stop the hate. Start talking. Start healing. One small act can end centuries of war. We proved it. Silence held a moment. Then applause started, slow at first, then rolling like thunder. Humans stood. Dongans rose. Other species joined. Not all. Some faces stayed hard. But most listened. The council chair, a tall, feathered alien, stepped forward. The floor is open for motions. A human delegate stood. Motion to form Joint Peace Council. Immediate ceasefire. Full data review. No veto. A Dongan elder rose. Seconded. Vote began. Holoscreens lit green. Overwhelming yes. The chamber erupted again. Cheers. Tears. Hugs across species lines. Elias and Lyra stepped off the platform. Guards cleared a path. But before they left, a young Dongan nurse approached, wings young and bright. She bowed low to Lyra. You are home now. We are sorry. Lyra touched her shoulder. Warm. No sorry. Just forward. Outside the chamber, in a quiet hall, Elias leaned against the wall. Tired. But smiling faint. We did it. Lyra stood close. Because you gave me tea. He laughed soft. And you didn't let me die. They walked slow back to Med Bay. No rush now. The galaxy shifted around them, treaty talk starting, borders opening, old hate cracking. In the quiet, Lyra made one more cup of tea. Poured for him. Sat beside. Steam rose between them. Years would pass. Statues would rise. But that moment, two tired souls, one cup, one quiet victory, was the real beginning. The hunt ended. Peace began. And they were no longer enemies. They were friends. They were the tea pair. And the stars watched, warmer now. The days after the Grand Chamber blurred into a whirlwind of light and sound. Epsilon Station became the heart of a new galaxy. Ships arriving hourly, delegates crowding halls, holoscreens flashing updates from border worlds. Ceasefire held. First fragile talks began in sealed rooms. Humans and Dongans sat at the same tables without weapons. Not friends yet. But listening. Really listening. Elias and Lyra became symbols they never asked to be. Everywhere they went, people stopped. A child, human girl with wide eyes, ran up once, handed Lyra a small drawing, two figures, one with wings, one holding a cup. Thank you, the girl whispered. Lyra took it gentle, claws careful not to tear the paper. Elias watched her eyes soften. He kept the drawing in his pocket after that. They moved from Med Bay to a quiet guest suite on the diplomatic level. Bigger than Elias's old apartment. Windows looked out on stars and docking arms. No heaters needed. Lyra's fire burned steady now, fed by rest and real food. Station cooks learned fast. Hot soups, spiced teas, warm breads. Elias taught them the right way to brew black tea. Lyra added Dongan herbs that made it glow faint orange. They shared cups every morning. Ritual now. But danger did not vanish with the broadcast. One night, alarms wailed soft, not station-wide, targeted. Elias woke first. Pistol already in hand from the bedside table. Lyra sat up, wings half spread, heat rising. Assassins, she said low. They came through the vents, 4 shadows in black stealth suits. No mockings. Professional. Silent. First one dropped into the room, blade out. Elias fired once. Center mass. The intruder fell without sound. Lyra moved like fire, lunged at the second dropping from above. Claws met armor. Heat surged. Metal hissed. The assassin screamed once, then slumped. The other two split, one for Elias, one for Lyra. Elias rolled off the bed, took cover behind the low table. Shots cracked, energy bolts scorched walls. He returned fire. Hit the leg. The assassin dropped, cursing. Lyra faced the last. He was fast, vibroknife flashing. She dodged, tail whipping to knock his balance. He slashed, caught her arm shallow. Blood welled dark. Pain flared, but she did not stop. Heat poured from her palm to his chest plate. Armor smoked, buckled. He gasped, knife falling. She pinned him. "Who sent you?" He laughed weak. "Old money. Old hate. Peace hurts profits." Guards burst in then, council security, late but heavy. They secured the survivors. Dragged them away. Elias lowered his pistol. Lyra leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Blood dripped slow. He crossed to her fast. "Let me see." She held out her arm. He tore a strip from the bedsheet, pressed it firm. "You're bleeding too much." Her glow came, weak but enough. Wound closed slow. "We live," she said. He nodded. "We live." Morning came. News spread quiet. Attempt on the T-pair. Failed. Public outrage grew. More delegates joined talks. Harder lines softened. Old warlords lost sponsors. Credits dried up for hate. Weeks turned to months. Elias and Lyra traveled, escorted, but free. First to human core worlds. Crowds cheered in city plazas. Children held tiny teacups as symbols. Then to Dongan nest clusters, warm caves lit by fire pools. Elders bowed low. Young ones touched Lyra's wings like she was legend. She spoke simple, "We are the same inside." Warmth, pain, hope. Elias stood beside her always. Said little. But when he spoke, people listened. "I gave her tea. She gave me reason." That's all it took. They grew older together. Elias's hair turned full silver. Scars deepened. Lyra's scales gained faint gold edges, sign of long life in her kind. They lived simple. Small house on a neutral colony, green hills, real sky. Heater always on. Tea kettle always hot. One evening, years later, they sat on the porch. Sunset painted the sky orange. Lyra leaned her head on his shoulder. Wings draped loose. "Do you regret it?" she asked. "Never," he said. "Not one sip." She smiled, small, warm. "Then we did enough." News came slow now. Peace held. Treaties signed. Joint fleets patrolled, not against each other, but together. Old borders blurred. New stories rose, human and Dongan crews saving ships in storms, nurses from both sides healing side by side. Statues appeared first on Epsilon, bronze figures, life-size. Elias with a thermos. Lyra with open palm, glow in her hand. Plaques read, "One act of kindness ended wars." More followed. On human worlds. Dongan nests. Neutral stations. Children learned their names in schools. "The T-pair," teachers said. "Proof that small things matter most." Elias and Lyra visited one once, quiet plaza on a green moon. Stood before their own statues. People gathered. No speeches. Just quiet thanks. A young Dongan offered Elias a cup, hot tea, brewed perfect. He took it. Passed it to Lyra. They drank together. Wind moved soft. Stars waited above. They walked home hand in claw. No rush. No hunt. Peace was not perfect. Hate lingered in shadows. But it was smaller now. Weaker. Because one retired veteran saw cold and offered warmth. And one freezing nurse accepted it. And neither let go. The galaxy remembered. And every morning, in their small house, Elias still made tea. Lyra still drank it. And the fire between them burned steady. Forever. The years slipped by like quiet stars across the night sky. The small house on the neutral colony world of Virtus Prime became their world, green hills rolling gentle under twin suns, a wide porch with 2 chairs that never moved far apart, and a kitchen with a kettle sang every morning without fail. Elias's hair was silver-white now, thin at the temples. His step slowed, the old limp more pronounced on damp days. Lyra's scales had deepened to rich midnight with gold flecks along the edges, marks of age and long life in her people. Her wings folded looser, the membranes thinner, but her fire still burned steady when she needed it. They lived simple. No crowds anymore. No speeches. The galaxy had moved on, carrying their story like an old legend told to children at bedtime. Statues stood in plazas across systems, bronze and stone versions of them, forever young, forever holding a cup or offering a warm palm. Tourists visited sometimes. Left flowers. Took holopics. Elias and Lyra watched from the porch once or twice, then went inside to make tea. Mornings were the same. Elias woke first. Shuffled to the kitchen in worn slippers. Filled the kettle from the rain barrel outside, real water, not recycled. Measured leaves careful. Let it steep just right. Poured 2 cups. Carried them out. Lyra waited on the porch, blanket over her shoulders against the morning chill that still touched her bones. He handed her the cup. Steam curled between them. "Still hot enough?" he asked every time. "Always," she answered every time. They drank in silence at first. Watched the suns rise. Birds, small, bright ones native to Virtus, darted through the garden Elias had planted years ago. Herbs mostly. Some flowers for color. Lyra helped tend them when her strength allowed. Her heat kept the soil warm in winter, helped roots grow deep. One morning, Elias set his cup down slower than usual. His hand trembled a little. "Getting old," he said. Lyra looked at him. "We both are." He nodded. "Feels strange. Thought I'd go quick. War or something. Not this. Slow." She reached over. Placed her clawed hand over his. "Warm. Steady. Slow is good. Gives time to remember." They remembered a lot. The cold night on Kale 9. The chase through asteroids. The broadcast that shook worlds. The assassins in the dark. The quiet victories after. They spoke of small things too, how he taught her to laugh at human jokes, how she showed him Dongan lullabies that sounded like distant fire. How they learned each other's silences. The galaxy changed around them. No more big wars. Skirmishes still flared sometimes, old grudges die hard, but fleets answered with talks first, weapons second. Joint schools opened. Human children learned Dongan fire safety. Dongan young ones studied human hope. Medical teams crossed borders without fear. Nurses from both sides worked side by side, healing the same wounds they once gave. News reached them slow. A holoscreen in the living room, used rarely. One evening it showed a story, 25 years since the T broadcast. Footage of the old chamber. Young Elias speaking plain. Young Lyra with fire in her eyes. Then cuts to now, plazas full of statues, children placing tiny teacups at the bases. Elias watched quiet. Lyra beside him. "They still talk about us," he said. "They talk about what we started," she corrected gentle. "Not us." He smiled faint. "Same thing." That night he slept heavy. Lyra stayed awake longer. Watched his chest rise and fall. Listened to the soft wheeze that had grown over years. She touched his forehead, warm human skin. Her fire flowed soft, just enough to ease the ache in his joints. He sighed in sleep. Smiled a little. Time passed. Seasons turned. Elias grew weaker. Walking became hard. He spent days in the big chair by the window. Lyra brought tea there. Read old books to him, human stories of heroes, Dongan tales of endless warmth. He listened. Laughed when he could. One afternoon, rain fell soft outside. Elias looked at her. Eyes clear despite the years. "Lyra," he said. Voice thin. She leaned close. "If I go first, don't freeze again. Promise." Her eyes glistened, fire tears, small and bright. "I promise. But you stay a while longer." He nodded. Trying. She made tea. Stronger that day. held the cup to his lips when his hands shook too much. He drank slow. "Still perfect," he whispered. She stayed by him every hour after that. Guards, old friends from council days, came sometimes. Brought news. Brought quiet company. No one bothered them. The galaxy gave them peace. One evening, sun's low, Elias looked out the window. "Beautiful day." Lyra nodded. "It is." He turned to her. "Thank you. For everything." She took his hand. Warmth poured from her, gentle, endless. "Thank you. For the first cup." He smiled. Closed his eyes. Breath slowed. Stopped. Lyra held on. Fire tears fell, small sparks on his hand. She did not cry loud. Just sat. Held. Remembered. Outside, rain stopped. Stars appeared. She stayed with him through the night. Made one last cup of tea. Drank it alone on the porch. Steam rose to the dark sky. Morning came. She called the quiet ones who knew them. They came. Took him gentle. Buried him in the garden he loved, under the herbs, facing the suns. Lyra stayed in the house. Alone now. But not empty. His coat hung by the door. His thermos on the shelf. Every morning she made tea. 2 cups. Drank one. Left the other by his chair. The galaxy remembered him in statues. She remembered him in warmth. And the fire in her never dimmed again. Because he had given it back to her, 1 cup at a time. Years later, children would come to the house, curious, respectful. She told them the story. Simple. True. One cold night, a human gave me tea. And everything changed. They listened wide-eyed. She smiled soft. And every morning after, we made more. The house stayed warm. The tea stayed hot. And the stars above Virtus Prime shone a little brighter. For them both. The house on Virtus Prime felt bigger after Elias left. Not in size, the walls stayed the same, the porch still creaked under Lyra's steps, but in the quiet spaces he used to fill. His chair by the window sat empty. The thermos on the shelf gathered a thin layer of dust she wiped away every morning. She still made 2 cups of tea. Drank one. Left the other beside his chair until it cooled. Then poured it out in the garden, under the herbs where he rested. Lyra aged slower than humans. Dongan fire kept her strong long after most would fade. Her scales held their midnight glow, though the gold flecks spread like quiet stars. Her wings drooped a little more each year, but she still flew short distances when the suns were high and warm. She tended the garden alone now. Planted new seeds in spring. Weeded in summer. Watched leaves turn in autumn. In winter she sat by the heater he had installed years ago, wrapped in his old military coat, feeling the warmth he once gave her in a cup. Children came sometimes. Not many. The curious ones who had heard the stories from grandparents or school holo lessons. They knocked polite on the door, eyes wide. "Are you the nurse from the tea pair?" they asked in soft voices. Lyra opened the door. Smiled gentle. "I am Lyra." They sat on the porch. She told the story the same way every time. Simple, no grand words. "One cold night on a frozen moon, I could not move. My fire was dying. A human soldier, old, tired, retired, walked up. He said, 'You look cold.' He gave me tea. Hot, sweet. It saved me. Then he saved me again. And again. Until we saved each other." The children listened. Some cried quiet tears. Others asked questions. "Did it hurt when you fought the hunters? Was he afraid? Do you miss him?" She answered honest. "Yes, yes. Every day." One boy, small, human, freckles across his nose, held out a tiny thermos. "My mom said you liked tea. I made it. Black. Sugar. Like the stories." Lyra took it careful. Opened it. Steam rose. She sipped. Closed her eyes. "Perfect," she whispered. "Thank you." The boy beamed. He would like it, right? He would. They left flowers sometimes. Small cups. Drawings. She kept them in a box by the window. Opened it on quiet nights. Remembered. News still reached her. A hollow message now and then from old friends, Voss's successor, council aides, nurses she once worked with. Peace held. Stronger each decade. Joint colonies grew on border worlds. Human children played with Dongan young ones in warm caves and green fields. No one called them enemies anymore. The word tea-pair became a verb in some languages. To tea-pair meant to offer kindness first, to cross lines with something small and warm. Lyra rarely left the house. When she did, it was to visit the garden grave. She sat there often, spoke to him without words, poured tea on the soil, let it soak in. One winter evening, snow fell light, rare on Virtus. She wrapped herself tighter in his coat, sat on the porch. The second cup steamed beside her. She looked at the stars. "It's cold tonight," she said aloud. Voice soft, but not like Kale 9. "You made sure of that." Wind moved gentle through the garden. She felt it, faint, like a hand on her shoulder. She smiled. Fire tears came, small and bright, falling to the porch boards where they hissed soft and vanished. She drank her tea slow. Let the warmth fill her completely. Years turned to decades. Lyra grew old even for her kind. Wings too heavy to lift. Fire dimmer, but never out. She spent days in the big chair now. Neighbors, human and Dongan families who had moved nearby over time, brought food, checked on her, sat with her when she wanted company. One spring morning, sun warm through the window, she felt it coming. Not pain, just time. She made tea one last time. 2 cups. Strong. Hot. She drank hers slow. Carried the second to the garden. Set it by his resting place. She sat on the soft grass. Wings folded around her like a blanket. Looked at the sky. "Thank you," she said, "for the warmth, for the fight, for the quiet years." She closed her eyes. Fire inside flickered low. Then steady. Then bright, one last glow, warm as the first sip on Kale 9. Breath slowed. Stopped. Neighbors found her later that day. Sitting peaceful. Cup empty beside his grave. Smile faint on her face. They buried her next to him. 2 simple stones. No grand statues here, just names. Elias. Lyra. And below, 1 cup started it all. The house stayed. Kept warm by kind hands. Garden grew wild and beautiful. Children still came. Told the story to their own children. The tea-pair became legend, but the ending stayed simple. She did not freeze again. He did not leave her alone. They rested side by side under Virtus suns. And every morning, someone, child, neighbor, stranger, made tea on that porch. Poured 2 cups. Drank 1. Left the other steaming in the air. Because kindness does not end. It just keeps getting poured. The galaxy turned on. Warmer. Quieter. Forever changed. Many years passed on Virtus Prime. The small house with the green garden stood quiet under the twin suns. Rain fell soft in season. Winds carried seeds. Flowers bloomed where Elias and Lyra once sat. Neighbors, now old themselves, kept the porch swept and the kettle polished. They told their children the story so it would not fade. The children told theirs. Time turned gentle pages. One bright morning in early spring, a delegation arrived. Not soldiers. Not hunters. Just people, human and Dongan, young and old, dressed simple. They carried no banners, only quiet respect. A young council aide led them. She had silver scales like Lyra's gold flecks and eyes that remembered the old broadcasts. Behind her walked a human boy, no young man now, with his mother's freckles and steady gaze. In his hands he held a small thermos. Still warm. They stopped at the garden gate. Looked at the 2 stones side by side. Elias. Lyra. 1 cup started it all. The aide spoke soft. Today marks 50 years since the tea broadcast. The galaxy wants to remember. Properly. The young man stepped forward. We built something. For them. For everyone. He gestured behind. A transport waited at the hill's edge. Its doors opened. Inside, 2 statues. Smaller than the grand ones on Epsilon or the core worlds. Life-size. Simple bronze. Elias stood tall, thermos in one hand, faint smile on his lined face. Lyra beside him, wings half spread, one clawed palm open and glowing soft orange. Between them, a single cup, steam rising forever frozen in metal. Their hands almost touched. Not quite. Close enough. The delegation carried the statues gentle to the garden. Placed them facing the stones. Facing the house. Facing the porch where 2 chairs still waited. No speeches. No crowds. Just quiet work. When done, they stepped back. The aide turned to the small group of neighbors who had gathered. This is not for show. It is for here. Where it began for them. Where it ends for them. The galaxy has its big monuments. This one is theirs. One old Dongan neighbor, scales faded, wings heavy, touched the statue of Lyra. She would like it. Simple. Warm. A human grandmother nodded. He would say it's too much. Then pour tea anyway. They laughed soft. Tears mixed with smiles. The young man with the thermos opened it. Poured 2 cups. Set them at the statue's feet. Steam rose in the morning light. For the mornings they shared, he said. The aide looked at the sky. The broadcast still plays in schools. Children learn. Kindness is not weakness. It is the strongest weapon. One act can stop wars. One cup can build peace. A child in the group, Dongan girl with bright new wings, asked, "Do they hear us?" The aide smiled. "I think they do." They stayed a while. Sat on the porch. Shared stories. Drank tea from the house kettle. Then left quiet. The transport rose slow. Gone into the blue. The garden returned to silence. Suns climbed higher. Birds sang. Wind moved leaves. But the statues stayed. Elias and Lyra, bronze now, stood together forever in the place they loved. Facing each other across time. The cup between them caught sunlight. Sparkled like the first steam on Kale 9. Years later, travelers still came. Not many. A family on vacation. A student writing a report. An old soldier with scars and memories. They walked the garden path. Read the stones. Touched the statues gentle. Left small things, a flower. A drawing. A tiny cup. And always, always, someone made tea. Poured 2. Drank 1. Left 1 steaming. Because the story never ended. It just kept being told. In quiet gardens. In warm kitchens. In hearts that refused hate. One retired veteran gave tea to a freezing nurse. Years later, the galaxy built statues for them. Not because they were heroes. Because they were kind. And kindness, small, simple, stubborn, changed everything. The sun set slow over Virtus Prime. The statues watched. The tea cooled. But the warmth, it never left. The end.